Okay, so just firstly, this is my first time that I've ever spoken about my story, crikey, in public ever. And then when I tap into emotions, then emotions come out, then I start getting tears, but they're happy tears. So they will go because I'll breathe. But if you see me dropping tears, and I'm definitely looking at my family over there, that's definitely not going to happen. They're happy tears, and I'll just take a minute to breathe. So, why am I here? I'm number one, I'm Samantha, in case you didn't know. I'm here to hopefully inspire anybody. Anybody that doesn't have faith in themselves because of their circumstances, to have faith because of their circumstances. I think so much of these days we almost feel, I'm going to say maybe embarrassed or for the things that have happened for us that we think have happened to us. That if we actually look back on those things, we would see the masterpiece that God was creating. So this is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. Okay. Oh, photos. Okay, cool. So, before we go into this. So where I am now, I've built a 6 to 7 figure home detailing business. And I've built another 6-figure business in the last 4 years on my own, with leaving school at 13, like a beast. So when I was 14 years old, just there, that was my little boy that is over there in the white jumper. So he's alive. This is great. So this is my son, and and my daughter. She is right here. Leah and Tomislav. And this is what it was really like growing up together. So I had my daughter when I was 17 and my son when I was 14. Yeah, that was pretty cool. All right, now the reason why I bring this up is you can imagine do we have the photo of my old house?
Do you want me to show?
Yeah, great. This is where I grew up. So my father was a multi-millionaire, and my mum, whom is over there, we really didn't have nothing.
Go, Nanny.
However, we might be borrowing the electricity from the neighbours sometimes. However, my mum was the biggest carer, the biggest giver, would give everything she had when she had nothing. So that taught me so much greatness. And then my dad was like the uber successful, tight ass Italian that never gave us anything. So I had a beautiful balance. Perfect. Thank you so much. Any help would be great throughout the week. So when you grow up here and then you fall pregnant, and my dad he never helped my mum for me, let alone me for my son. So we had no support. Now, if I said to you, do you think that somebody in here that's 14 years old that has fallen pregnant would be able to build 2 6-figure businesses by herself? Like, it's just not heard of. But so I'm going to bring you back to where my life started, and then you will see how the masterpiece that God was creating from way back then, that people have had the conversation with me and they've said, wow, you've had a really hard life. And I'm like, you could definitely perceive that. I could definitely judge my childhood and say, wow, having to eat dinner in Woolies was really hard, but in fact, hot chicken with fresh rolls, fresh mayonnaise is actually not that bad. It's actually great. So looking at things from an adult back on your childhood, or an adult at your past in whatever way, can often traumatize you a lot. Where if you can step back into your child part and say, what was life really like at that time? So I'm going to walk through with you on some amazing parts. I'm going to tell you what the negative or the bad was and how that supported me on this journey. You right with that?
Yes.
You're following? Okay, great. Again, any words to help? I'm here. Just yell them out. Okay. So at 6 years old, I attended 3 different schools. So from kindergarten, preschool to kindergarten, three schools of new children, of new teachers, in new houses with new families, right? So imagine the change when my son went from Catholic school to a public school. It was like he was rocking in the bathroom for like 3 days. I'm like, Jesus. So for me, I was gifted that at such a young age to adapt to change really well. And obviously, can you imagine throughout life, 2 businesses, 2 children, life changed. Like COVID, you know, everything changes. And I adapt to it really well. But that started when I was 6, so that was great. And then we have, so I had a stepmother. She was what you would say, maybe a dirty bastard, but she was like quite evil. And she pushed me, like just imagine you're 8 years old and she tells you to get over the balcony on a top floor apartment to jump off at like 8 years old. That's like insane, right? So that was the type of boundaries that she pushed for me on a daily basis.
Did you ask her to go first?
Well, so the thing is,
I
know. So the thing is, my dad, even though he was a massive tight ass and bad to my mum, I loved him like more than anything in the world. So I knew if I was unkind to my stepmom, I thought I would lose my dad. And if I told my mum what she was doing to me, my mum would snap her legs. And then I would lose my dad as well. So, and it was perfectly perfect that I only had, there was no one to talk to. And the frustration every day, like she would, you know, put me in the mirror and say, do you know you're a shitbag? Like, you know that, you know, you're from this type of person. But like constantly, and when you're younger, it's great. Like it's easier to condition someone when they're a child because it just becomes like normal. Like we look at it, we're like, oh, that's so bad. But when you say to someone, you're orange, do you know that you're orange? And the kid's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm orange. So that was almost how it was. So as she would drill me emotionally, physically, for years, she taught me how to clean because that's all I did when I lived at her house. And because there was no one to talk to and the only place that I felt safe and that I could allow the pain to come out was through the cleaning. So I would just wipe and then I'd be like, oh, and like no one would be around, so it was fine. I would cry and cry. And then as I grew older, every time that I'd feel anxious or I felt really happy, I would just go and clean something all the time. And it was a little bit strange. People were like, yeah, you all right? Why are you doing that? I was working as a bar manager. They're like, you clean a lot. Like you're like in the poker machine buttons. I'm like, yeah, because it's so dirty. But nobody really understood why. And my stepmom, like that's why I'm like, it was so perfectly perfect that she taught me how to release my pain through having nobody else around. And all I did was clean, there was nothing else. So that cleaning became my place of meditation, my happy place. And that space is where I grew 6 to 7 figure. We go from 700,000 to $1 million to, COVID, then you change things up a little bit. So 6 to 7 figure business, because that was my most happiest place to be. So had Michelle have not been there, where would I be? And not just myself, but I've trained thousands of people across the whole world. Reviews galore. I hated cleaning until I met Sam, but they don't know why. Like how did I make sure that cleaning was a calm and like the right products, the right technique, not straining, not being hard work, not rushing, not cleaning when you've got like 5 minutes and you need really an hour. So there's so many things in the back end that nobody knows that I've just implemented because cleaning was my happy place through my stepmother. And then I think at the same time, so you're following me, right? How amazing, like how something can really be painful, but it's just like, wow. And then the cleaning product business, that's 4 years old, that's also 6 figures. That come from me needing to find easier solutions. Like I've got a team that I need to make sure, I didn't say these words, but this is what it was. I need them to be happy. I need them to love their job. I need them to achieve these results every day when I'm there or not there. So me finding a chemist, it wasn't to make money. It was to find an easier solution. Oh, can you tell me how to do this? Oh, you really don't need to do that? Oh, wow. And I just never stopped. Now we have 17,000 customers across the country that use the Shine system. Yeah, I know. It's so cool. Like, it's so cool. That use the Shine system. And it's not, you can't just buy a cleaning product, it's a system. So I've got like hundreds of videos online because I don't say, here's my product, this is great. I'm like, watch this with just water. 1, 2, 1. People are like, do you ever hear Sam in your head saying 1, 2? I'm like, but this is like, it's, if you look at what this is what it is. There's no anger, anxiety, I can't do this, and the results are like this. So, again, what people would look at as, that was really bad, had she not been like, look what I've built from that. My 2 children, 1, 2, that, their dad, it's so funny. I say this all the time. Actually, not too much. My kid's father was 15, I was 14. And we actually thought, I said to my mum, we're going to build the best life. He's going to be the builder. I'm going to be the stay-at-home cook. I'm going to teach the kids all the stuff. I left school when I was 12. Like 4 weeks after my son was born, he was like, yeah, like parent life isn't really for me. I'm like, you promised me. You can't just leave me by myself. But again, had I had that support from him, where would I be? Like I grew up in this, and I used to, like my dad used to bag my mum, bag her. And then I used to bag her because he taught me to bag her. So I would be like, this is shit, how do you live like this? Because my dad was like, again, Versace home. Why can't we go to private schools? Why don't we do a $700 a week shopping? This is shit. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous, it really does. I look at myself, I'm gonna punch myself in the face. Sorry, Mum. But that fire, it was really, what he taught me was really bad to my mum. Like she's put up with a whole heap of crap, like poor mother. But it was really motivating for my life because when I fell pregnant with him, I'm like, Thomas, he will never know what it's like to need or to be jumped in the street by a group of people or to be scared to go to school or to not have dinner that day. It will never happen. But I had no support. But I had no drive either, right? Like before him, there was no drive. Someone said to me when I was 12, what do you want to be? I was like, I'd love to be a stripper. If I have the body. And then if I had my own housing commission home, that would be amazing to have my, and if I can drive a Hyundai Excel, they're like $12,000, that'd be great. And let me show you where I live. You want to see where I live now?
Woo!
So, I mean, the drive wasn't there. And people say to me, how did you become so driven? I'm like, you've got a fire started in my soul that never left. Then I have a kid that I have to bring up and put through the soccers and the swimmings and the private schools and the clothes and the toys, the toy room and the DVDs and all the things you never had. And then, I went back to the kid's father and thought, we can do this? Are you ready to be a dad now and be a builder? He's like, yes. I fell pregnant with my daughter. I'm like, you liar! That is not what you're going to do. So as soon as I fell pregnant with my daughter, I'm like, listen, it's time to cut the cord. He had a baby with my best friend like 8 months later. It was great. It was great because I was like, it's over, like really over. I just knew. So what I didn't realise that was happening for me was I had a son that I had to bring up, and then I had a daughter that I also had, and I still had no support. I still had an $8.50 an hour chicken job that I loved, by the way. So I was still in the same position, but I was like from the day he was born, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, something like that. I went to TAFE, I'm like, I need to get an education so I can read. I need to be able to write English for something. No idea about a job, no idea. So I'm at TAFE trying to learn. I'm working at the chicken shop. We're in our own housing commission home that I got and loved. It's great. So I had him, then I had her. Then obviously, when you live in these type of areas, people know who the workers are and who are not the workers. So the people that are the workers, they're the people that get robbed. So I'd come home on the bus, the door's open, everything's gone. That would happen at least every 3 months. But again, it sounds like it sounds really shitty, right? But how much harder do you think I had to work? How many different solutions do you think I had to find? Because I had these two and that fire didn't stop burning. So my reason for being here is to see that it's so easy for me to say, I was like mentally, physically abused. Gosh, we grew up in Claymore. Like it was, I was stuck with 2 kids. Dad left me with nothing. Got robbed every 3 months. We got firebombed. So easy to say that. But what did I take from that? I didn't start a business because I was going to be a business owner. I thought people keep putting shit on me because I'm a great cleaner. Well, let me see if someone will pay me to clean the house. How about that? So I went to the advertiser and I said to her, am I muddling you up? Are you following me? I said to the advertiser, I really love cleaning houses. You've got to tell me where the time is because we don't have a stopwatch. Anyone got a stopwatch?
3 minutes.
Okay. 3 minutes left? One time. I actually didn't pay the time. Advertiser. Thank you. So I went to the advertiser and I said to the lady, I love cleaning. You don't even understand. I'll pull everything up. Like the top of the cupboards, we'll organise all the cups. You don't even understand. She's like, so what did you come here for? I said, do you think someone will pay me to clean their home? And she said, with energy like that, definitely. I was like, great. So what do? And she said, do you have a business name? I said, what do you think we should call it? She's like, you've actually got to have a business name registered. And I'm like, oh, okay, so we're going to register. Does it cost money? She's like, yep. So anyways, we did that. It was really funny. I was in the line at Fair Trading in Liverpool. And I didn't understand how to read any of the paperwork. So I'm sitting in line with a blank paper. There's like a line, down the hall. And I got to the counter and the lady said, okay, you haven't filled out paperwork. And I said, yeah, I don't understand what to write. She's like, well, the first thing is the company name. I said, yeah, I'm still, what do you think we should call it? Like, that was how far I was away from even being a business, like no idea. So once we got that, it was called Samantha's Home and Corporate Cleaning, working with a smile. Amazing. Amazing. Charging $20 an hour, using your cleaning stuff because I had nothing. So within 3 months, because obviously you can tell I'm a hard worker, even just feeling my energy, right? So 3 months I was booked out. Then I said to my sister, hey, do you want a job? I'm booked out. Like, she was like, sure. So by year 2, we had 8 of us, full time, changing lives everywhere. And then this builder said to me one time, do you have a ABN? I said, yeah, it's here. He's like, no, that's not an ABN. I said, it sure is. It's on paper. He's like, it's not. I said, I'll send you a photo of the paper. So I got home and I sent him a photo of my business name registration. He's like, that is not business name. I was like, okay, people. So where do I find that? So then I obviously got my ABN number. I was so proud. I think I might have even framed it. I was like, this is an ABN number. I had all my cash dockets. It was great. He's like, you really need to see an accountant. Do you have an accountant? I was like, I'm not an accountant. See. He's like, no, you need one if you're in a business. I'm like, oh. So I walked in and I said to the lady, no, there's a reason I'm telling you this. Hey, so I think I have to see you. I started a business like 3 years ago. She's like, great. What accounting program do you use? And I'm like, accounting program. She's like, yeah. I said, I don't know what that means. She's like, where do you write where do you charge? I said, oh, here's my cash book. It's in the glove box. I'll go get it. So I brought the cash books and she's like, oh, so you've got the super, your long service, your workers' comp, your tax. I was like, I don't know what that means. She said, yeah. So you have employees? I said, oh, maybe we're on the wrong track. So I have 8 people, but we all get paid the same. We get paid $20 an hour. But we work together. She's like, but you pay them. I said, yeah, I pay them. She's like, so you're the owner? I said, well, I'm the owner, but we all get paid the same. She said, well, you're going to pay their tax. I'm like, they don't pay my tax. She said, you need to drop the rate and drop their rate and increase your client's rate. I'm like, no, the clients won't pay because my self-worth was still right down here. So I said to them, look, you're fired. She's like, you haven't paid me anything. I'm like, I'm going. So I took off. 3 years later, someone's like, you really got to do a tax return. I'm like, oh, the lady told me I had to put the prices up. I just wasn't going to do it. It's just too much. And then I found a guy and he's like, look, the way he spoke to me must have just hit me in the right way. He's like, look, you now owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, oh, I don't have anything anyway. I don't know. And he's like, you're going to have to pay all this back. Like, if you don't seriously put your prices up, because you're not profitable, you've got to pay double what you're even making. So I was like, all right. So we went up. My poor clients, this is what happened. We went from 20 to 22.50, 25, 28.50, 33, I still remember, 38.50, 44, 49.50, 55. Then from there, we got up to 100. So now we're profitable, thank the Lord. But that was the self-worth, that one, journey. And when someone says, you don't understand, people won't pay, I'm like, oh, I understand that real well. And when the accountant said, let me show you through your numbers, it took 6 people to be able to explain it to me in English so I could understand. And I was like, oh, overhead cost. There's variables, wow. Okay. This is how much my daily expenses are. Shit. Great. Okay, cool. Well, that's why you charge more when you do these jobs, because the stuff costs more. Oh. So when cleaners come, now this is why I'm telling you this, because now cleaning business owners pay me $500 an hour to teach them. But why? Because I live through that. So like when people say, oh, come, I'm happy to pay you $1,500, come for 3 hours and teach my team. I'm a really great leader, in case you can't tell. And then I would say, cool, so how did you find your team? They're like, heartbeat, driver's license. Do you know what your company values are? Do you know what your values are? No. Okay, so you're just finding people from the street, you're gonna pay me, money you don't have. It's not gonna happen. Do you know what your direct costs are? Do you know what your overhead costs are? No idea. I said, great. I'm actually not gonna take your money. We've got to do some other stuff first before I train. But had I not gone through all of that $500,000 of debt, I didn't opt to go bankrupt because I had nothing. I could have gone bankrupt, right? I was like, no. The government supported me my whole life. Growing, like when having my son, when we got robbed, we couldn't afford to pay electricity, there's many things. I went to Anglicare, excuse me, can you please help me with a food voucher? I just got robbed, my kid's birthday, all of his stuff got taken, please. They're like, sure, boom, here's a meat voucher. Salvation Army, all these places. I'm like, there is no way I'm just gonna go bankrupt. This has happened for a purpose. One day I will understand that, but I can feel that this journey has happened for a reason. Now, you can see what that reason is. And that's why this is what I wanted to share with you today, that you can look at maybe your things that your painful bits, and see them as parts to the masterpiece that God's been creating for your whole life. That's it.